So today I'm feeling called to talk about how do you channel light? My name is Crystal Hoban, aka Crystal Clear Mystic, and I am a channeler. If you've seen my channel, you definitely have recognized and seen that I channel a lot. And um, I want to talk about like how to do it. So first off, what I do is not something that other people can't do. I want to just acknowledge that. Now, in the way that I do it, that may be different, but we are all capable and able of channeling light and receiving an information from the quantum field. So, how I understand what channeling is I understand it as we are aligning to a certain energy and receiving information from the quantum field and then putting that into words. So, when I say that everybody does it a little bit different, I mean that there are some channelers who they get a feeling and that feeling they then put into words. There are some channelers who receive pictures or symbols and their mind's eye, and that's how they put it into words. There are channelers who hear words and statements and phrasing, and then that's what they put into words, right? So there's different ways that this can kind of manifest for different people depending on your own gifts and your own skills. For me personally, I hear, I see symbols, and I also experience feelings as well. And so I would say that's like what I experience or think of clairvoyance as is that you have like kind of all of those gifts tapped into one. So everybody experiences this a little bit differently, right? But what's really making me want to talk about this today, and it just kept coming through, this channel kept coming through until I sat down here, is that after I watched that Jay Shetty podcast with Madonna, she kept talking about how when she creates her music, she does it by channeling light. And what she said is her purpose here is to channel light and show it to other people and show others that they're capable of channeling light. And I just really resonated with that. And when you channel, you are you are connecting with the energy that you are embodying in that exact moment. So, what I mean by that is like if you are in a place of fear or anxiety or nervousness, then you're going to channel the same kind of energy of that, right? So, that's why you hear certain readers talking about someone coming to get you, someone getting their dues, whatever. Um, I don't want to get too much into that because that's not really what I channel usually, but I do want to differentiate. Those individuals who are channeling that are people who are still kind of embodying this energy of like resentment and retribution and retaliation. And so when you embody those energies, then that's going to be what you receive. So when you're embodying an energy of, let's say, scarcity or um, let's say lack, then you're going to receive ideas from the quantum that align with that frequency. So, the reason I'm sharing this aspect is because I feel like it's important to recognize that you will still receive information, but it will be aligned with whatever energy that you're embodying. So, you know, there's a part of the channeling for you to be able to channel the purest of light and the lightest of light, you have to be able to heal yourself to a certain degree. So, like, you're as much as you are healed, that is going to align with whatever you're channeling. I hope that makes sense. So, like, you know, whatever your baseline is, that's going to be what you channel. So, the other piece about channeling too is that like you really do need to be very present and you need to be very calm and relaxed and regulated. So if you're not in that state, you're going to have a hard time receiving the information. And the other piece of that is you're going to really struggle to determine what is your mind and what is actually your intuition. It kind of gets confumbled. Like it gets confused when you're in that state. So like in a state of like amped upness or a state of like overwhelm or a state of intensity, you're going to confuse what is what. When you're calm, you're regulated, then you're more open to receiving a lot of the information from the quantum field and the other side. And one thing that I've really started to recognize, because I've started to actually be able to tap into people who have passed now, that's very new for me. That's a new skill that's been coming in. Um, is that your nervous system and your ability to regulate your nervous system and hold a regulated state affects your ability to open your gifts. So the reason that I'm able to now tap into that gift and open up that gift is because I have come into such a regulated state within my body and system over a lot of work and time. And so now that is being available to me because I am now being aware of it. I'm able to be more aware of it because I'm living much more in the present. So that's the other thing too. Like as you're channeling, you have to very much be in the present. You can't be thinking about the past, thinking about it very much has to be a present energy for you to receive a constant stream of information from the divine, from source, from the quantum field. I feel like we're talking about the same thing when I say quantum field. So just to reiterate that concept. And the other piece of this is that I keep coming back to squiring, I don't know how to say it, squiring. Like, okay, so back in the olden days, okay, bear with me here. They used to have psychics that would have like the magic ball in front of them, right? And skyring, SCRYING. I don't know how to say it, but they were doing that in the ball. And so when you're watching me channel and I'm looking out, I'm actually looking outside. So I am very attached to nature energy. I'm very attached to Mother Gaia. And so actually, I go for walks a lot of the time before outside before I even channel. And that actually opens everything up for me. There's a regulation component to that, there's a relaxation component to that, but there's also like a being able to be completely present in the moment, which helps me to receive the information that I need to produce. And so when you'll see a lot of channelers, they'll look off, and it's because what they're doing is they're scrying. That's it. I said it. Scrying. They're scrying. They're, and you have also maybe seen people talk about like putting things in water, like flowers in water and scrying in water. It's a way to kind of like tap into something else. I don't really know how to describe it exactly, but that's like the easiest way for me to describe it. You like stare off into a space and you kind of like check into another dimension. Another psychic, when I was learning how to do this, kind of said to me that they imagine themselves in like a different room, which they feel like is a different dimension. And then when certain messages come through or certain people come through, they see them in that room with them, and whatever is like their mind, they'll watch it be swept away with a broom, which is kind of cool. So, I mean, just to say that I think everybody experiences this very differently. Everybody like has a different way of doing this, right? So it really is kind of like figuring out what works best for you. There are a lot of channelers though that do it looking outside. They do it looking outward. And a lot of that is because I think there's just something you're able to tap into energy wise when you're able to look at the outside area. That's just how it feels for me. There's just something very congruent about that for me. I can also do it not looking outside, and I would just look at a spot somewhere in a room and I would just kind of focus in on that, and then that would take me to that space as well. Um, but what I will say is that everybody has a different way of doing it. So it's kind of about like figuring out what that works for you. But, Madonna talked about like how she wrote a lot of her songs in that way. And she believes that a lot of the celebrities and the famous people that become famous are people who are channeling, but they're maybe not acknowledging that or labeling it in that way. And so, a lot of the creative energy and the creative information comes from being able to channel, and it really is just about being open. There was another I would say he was a psychic. He didn't identify as a psychic, but that I used to talk to, and he would talk about how he did it through automatic writing. So he would sit down and he would just write and write and write and write and write and not read it over, not edit it, just like literally like just let it flow, whatever came through. And that was how he was tapping into that light energy for himself. So, I mean, there's many different ways to do it. You just got to kind of figure out what works for you. And the other thing I do want to say is that I think it changes over time. So even if you've started watching my channel, when I first started my channel, I started with tarot cards. And very rarely now actually do I use tarot cards. But that was a way to tap into a channel and start to open up the channel. And so it's a divination tool. It's a way to do ruins are the same thing, like the little ruin kind of things. So like and some people they like the tarot cards, so they consistently use them. And they also consistently buy different decks because different pictures give different messages, tap into different channels, right? So that's kind of what's going on. If you're somebody who watches these things, I guess I'm kind of explaining to you like why that happens and what's actually happening with all of that. And so, you know, I think I started with tarot cards. Um, and actually I started with writing. Which I didn't realize what I was doing at the time, but it was writing that actually started me. Then I started with tarot, then I used tarot cards. And then I just started to build trust and self-trust within myself more. And that helped me to be able to start to channel just like freely and from being able to just kind of like, um, not use any tool at all exactly and just like trust and know that whatever's coming in is meant to come in and meant to be shared. So that took a lot of like self trust though, right? So I still had these different like pillars of levels that I went through to get to this point, right? Um, and I still use tarot cards when I'm in very public settings. Um, I don't know if I'll continue to do that, but at this time I still do. But when I'm in private settings, and since I've always been in private settings, like one on one with clients, I usually don't use tarot cards at all. So, it really depends. It depends on also like how open that person's energy is too, right? Like if you're meeting with somebody and they're very guarded, you may need a little bit of extra help to kind of see what's going on in there. And that's something that you'll sense and you just kind of know over time. A lot of this is just practice. It takes practice, it takes time, it takes like getting to know yourself. Um, it really is something that is a skill that's like worked on and like a muscle, like going to the gym that you work on over time and you just get better at over time. And the other pieces too is like I think the self-trust is something that I did by practicing the skill and doing the skill, but the self-trust was also like some healing work that I had to do external to that as well. Um, and so, when you're very firm in who you are and you trust who you are, then you will start being able to like do this differently and you'll start giving yourself a chance to do it differently, right? Um, we are what we embody. You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, that's really like what it breaks down into. We are what we embody, right? So like if you're trusting yourself and you're feeding this skill and you're practicing this skill and you're using this skill, right? You're going to get more information. If you're consistently tapping into it and you're using what's being given to you, they're going to give you more of it, right? It's kind of like also when you get creative ideas from the quantum field, if you're using those creative ideas and you're trying them and you're tapping in, they're going to give you more of it. If you are like intuitively living with flow, so when you have a feeling to do something, you do it, right? They're going to keep giving that to you. So what's it called? It's like when you if you don't use it, you lose it. I always used to love that saying because it's true. And it's true with anything, right? Like the more you use something, the more you show them that you are using it, that you are respecting it, that you are listening, the more they're going to give you that information moving forward. So it really is about like a choice that you make to align with it or not, right? But I think also like, when you're channeling the light, it's really important to recognize that you're not thinking. You're very much like in this space of just receiving. You're literally in like the Empress energy of just receiving and just like reiterating back and just like being very present with the information that's incoming. So like That was another thing that Madonna said in her podcast, was that in the podcast was that um she really doesn't think, it literally just flows, because as soon as she starts thinking about it, she will cut off the flow. And so that's how she's written a lot of her songs. And if you look into some of the album names that she has too, she talked about it a little bit in that podcast. They're very much aligned with like spirituality and like finding your path and finding your light and tapping in, which I just think is so freaking cool. Because she is very well known. She's very successful. And she's been so successful because she's remade herself over and over and over again, because she's consistently listened to spirit about how to do that, right? Or whatever she calls it, God, right? But she consistently listens to God to guide her on what's next, the creative thing to do, right? And all of that. And that's how she's actually been as successful as she has been. The other thing that I'm feeling called to share is that she talks about, and this resonated with me very significantly. She talks about how when she receives information from the quantum field, she doesn't say that it came from her. She doesn't take ownership of it. She acknowledges that there's something outside of herself that's giving her that information to be successful. There's something outside of herself that's supporting her into her highest timeline and path. And so I think it's really important to recognize that she says this because of how she understands this. And I would have to agree with her. She understands that a lot of people who have become celebrities and famous and who get really famous with this one idea and then fall off are the people who take the information from the quantum field or from God, source, divine, whatever, and they say it's their own. They say that they created it. They don't acknowledge that it came from outside of them. And when you are kind of moving into that energy of like you did it all by yourself without the help of the divine or source or the quantum field, and you're feeling like you are the one who created that, right? There's kind of this energy shift that occurs. So, this is what I'm being guided to say. There's this energy shift that occurs in that space where you're kind of like this all knowing being, and you're embodying an energy of this all knowingness and how you know best, right? And it feels very like narcissistic to me in some ways, like the energy that's coming through when I said that. um and so when you're like embodying that kind of energy, that actually cuts off flow, because you're not acknowledging the like help that you received. You're not acknowledging that there was something much larger than you that gave you that information, right? Like you're saying that you did it all on your own, all by yourself. And that is not co-creating. It's moving away from co-creation, and it's also like this I'm better than other people mentality instead of this mentality of oneness. So it's kind of moving away from that oneness consciousness, that collective consciousness, which is really what you need to be tapped into to be able to receive divine channel, to receive and channel the light. And I want to say that, like, you can do this in many different ways. Like, I know people who do this through writing, like writing books, people who do it through music, people who do it through their art, they do it through paintings that they create, they see it in their mind and they put it on paper, right? Like, there's so many different ways to do this, but you do have to be aligned with the idea of oneness and collective consciousness, which means that you're aligned with the idea that you are working with the quantum field, you are working with the divine, you are working with source or spirit. You are not a lone island on its own by itself. And as soon as you step into the energy where you feel like only you are capable of receiving and putting this information forward, that is when you kind of cut off that flow, because you are stepping away from oneness. It's interesting because what's coming through now is like, if you look into historically speaking, there are many different inventions where people will patent the same invention on the same day or within days apart. They will attempt to patent the same thing. And so this is just, in my opinion, this is just information and like factual knowledge, like ways to see that there are many people receiving the same messages. There are many people tapping into the quantum field, the collective consciousness, and oneness. And not everybody is going to follow through and create the thing, right? But there's more than one person tapping into that, which means that it must be something outside of ourselves. It can't be something that we're doing all on our own, or explain that, because that's been happening for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, where certain inventions are being applied for patent on the same day at different points in time from people that are completely on different sides of the earth and different countries that have no connection to each other. So the connection is the quantum field. The connection is the collective consciousness. The connection is oneness. And so when you can embody the idea of oneness and hold space within that and hold that energy, then you are way more likely to be able to receive the information that you need to like move yourself forward and connect with the light in such a way. So that was really interesting how that came through. Um, but I think it's really important to recognize that, like, even Joe Dispenza's channeling. He may not call it that, but that's what he's doing, right? And so I just think it's really interesting how we all have different names for it, but we're all really talking about the same thing. And so, even like when you have certain knowings at certain periods of time about certain things happening, you're probably receiving a channel. But do you trust it and do you believe it? That depends on your own self work, and that depends on your own healing and how much you trust and believe in yourself. To channel successfully and well, and to be able to be tapped into this collective field whenever you want to be, and like be able to like move with it, you really have to be able to build a very solid foundation for yourself around self-trust. If you don't trust yourself, then you're not going to trust the information that's coming in, so therefore you're not going to be able to do anything with it. So there is like that kind of inner work piece that does need to be really solid and acquired and worked on, just so you're aware of like pieces that like kind of all come together to create this oneness and this ability to tap into this field. So, if you do feel called, I do help people learn how to trust themselves, learn how to tap in, learn what their gifts are, learn how to use their gifts, learn how to kind of build a schedule and do that. I do empowerment coaching. Embodied empowerment coaching is actually what I call it. And I also do psychic readings as well to help guide people to with spirit. So, and spiritual guidance to help people kind of tap into their gifts and open up their gifts as well. So if you do feel called, you can take a look at my bio. It's in my link tree. And just know that like what I'm doing is not something you can't do. And if you wanted to, you absolutely could create your own path in that direction. And if you need help, you know where to find me. Love you.